February 17, 1943. Tunisia, North Africa. American tank gunner Tommy Evans stares through his sight at the monster 30 yards ahead, a German Tiger tank. He fires. The 75mm shell hits with a deafening clang and disintegrates. Just a black smudge on the armor. The Tiger's massive 88mm gun slowly turns toward him. Tommy whispers, "We can't even scratch it." This wasn't an isolated incident. This was the new reality of tank warfare. When the Tiger tank arrived in late 1942, it didn't just change the battlefield, it broke it. The numbers were terrifying. 100mm of frontal armor, nearly 4 inches of hardened steel. An 88mm gun that could kill a Sherman from 1,500 yards away. The Sherman's 75mm couldn't penetrate from any range. Allied tank crews faced an impossible equation. The Tiger could destroy them from distances where their own guns were useless. And even when they got close, their shells simply bounced off. The psychological impact was devastating. Allied crews called it the Schreckenpanzer, the terror tank. The rule became simple: never engage a Tiger from the front. It took 3 to 4 Shermans to distract one Tiger while another flanked it. The cost in lives and equipment was unsustainable. The military problem was acute. If the Allies couldn't penetrate the Tiger's armor, their advance through Italy and France would stall. D-Day itself was at risk. Traditional armor-piercing rounds relied on mass and velocity. The Tiger had simply exceeded those limits. Making bigger guns would require redesigning entire tank fleets, a process that would take years. The answer had to come from the projectile itself. Allied engineers faced an unprecedented challenge: defeat the Tiger's armor without building a new gun. And they needed it fast. Late 1942. Defense Research Laboratories, Ottawa, Canada. Dr. Alistair Finch sketches furiously on a chalkboard, a cone wrapped in a fragile casing. "We cannot make the cannon bigger," he explains, "so we make the projectile smaller and faster." A British officer shakes his head. "A dart wrapped in tin foil? Doctor, the men will laugh this off the battlefield." He was right. They did laugh, but physics doesn't care about appearances. The APDS, 3 revolutionary components. The armor-piercing discarding, Sabot APDS was unlike anything that came before. 1. The penetrator. Instead of a heavy steel shell, the heart of the round was a small tungsten carbide dart. Tungsten is nearly twice as dense as steel, concentrating massive kinetic energy onto a pencil-thin point. 2. The sabot, the shoe. To fire this small dart down a large barrel, it was encased in a lightweight metal cradle, the sabot, that matched the barrel's diameter. This ensured maximum propellant energy transfer. 3. The discarding principle. Here's the genius. The lightweight sabot peeled away the instant the round left the barrel. This eliminated drag and let the dense tungsten core fly at unprecedented speeds. The results: standard 17-pounder rounds, 2,900 feet per second. APDS rounds, 4,000 feet per second, over 1,200 miles per hour. This small tungsten dart, carrying devastating kinetic energy focused on a pinpoint, could penetrate the Tiger's armor like a hot knife through butter. Development was fraught with challenges. Early rounds tumbled and disintegrated, earning the nickname Secret Squirrel Dart. When operational rounds reached tank crews, the reaction was mockery. The rounds looked flimsy and delicate compared to the reassuring bulk of standard shells. Experienced commanders called them toy darts. The skepticism ran deep. These men were fighting for their lives. They wanted simplicity and proven weapons, not weird science experiments. But the engineers knew the physics was sound. This was the only way to defeat the Tiger without building bigger guns. Normandy, July 1944. Sergeant Arthur McMillan commands a Sherman Firefly, a standard Sherman retrofitted with the massive 17-pounder gun. Through his binoculars, he watches 2 Tiger tanks systematically destroying British infantry. His gunner, Private David O'Connell, is nervous. He's loaded the strange new round, the tin dart. Mac takes a deep breath. Forget the weight, forget the laughter, center mass, fire when ready. The 17-pounder roars, but the sound is different, sharper, higher pitched, followed by a fleeting metallic whisper as the sabot falls away. For German Tiger crews, the experience was terrifying and inexplicable. Unlike standard shells that made loud impacts, the APDS hit with a high-pitched crack, followed immediately by catastrophic internal explosion. The hypervelocity tungsten core didn't just penetrate, it created a phenomenon called spalling. Armor fragments and the core itself sprayed through the fighting compartment at supersonic speeds. The extreme kinetic energy could compress and ignite the internal air, essentially vaporizing the crew instantly. German crews were stunned. Their supposedly invincible Tigers showed only small entry holes on the frontal armor, but were instantly killed, at ranges where Allied guns should have been useless. German ordnance reports described bizarre and inexplicable kills. They theorized new chemical rounds or secret rockets. They couldn't conceive that the physics of traditional kinetic penetration had been revolutionized. They had no idea they'd been killed by a simple hypervelocity dart. For Allied crews, the APDS was transformational. For the first time, they had a weapon that could truly challenge the Tiger. Skeptical crews became fervent believers. They reserved their precious APDS rounds for the moment a Tiger appeared. Direct frontal engagement was no longer a death sentence. The legendary tanker Sidney Radley Walters used APDS to destroy multiple Tigers in quick succession, leaving German commanders reeling. The deployment of APDS fundamentally altered tank warfare. Psychological reversal. The German advantage, built on the Tiger's invincibility, shattered overnight. Tiger commanders could no longer sit and absorb fire. They were forced into cautious defensive maneuvers. Range equalization. Allied tanks could now engage Tigers at ranges approaching where the Tiger could accurately fire back. The gap in effective combat range collapsed. Tactical shift. Allies could confidently deploy Fireflies in forward positions, challenging German heavy armor head-on instead of relying purely on ambushes. September 1944. German high command officers stare at diagrams of destroyed Tigers, small, clean entry holes followed by catastrophic internal damage. Colonel Reinhardt slams his fist on the table. Our Tigers are supposed to stop the 17-pounder, but this is a needle, a high-velocity dart. The realization settles over the room like a shroud. Their technological superiority is over. The end of an era. The APDS didn't just destroy tanks, it destroyed German doctrine. For years, German heavy armor dominated through frontal invincibility. Crews could stop, absorb fire, and leisurely choose targets. The APDS round destroyed this tactical certainty. German commanders were forced to adopt defensive tactics, constant maneuvering, reliance on camouflage, static ambush positions. This reduced mobility directly hampered their ability to mount effective counterattacks. The APDS, in effect, slowed the German war machine down. German countermeasures. Too little, too late. The Germans couldn't simply make armor thicker without creating immobile fortresses. Their only option was angled armor, sloping plates to increase effective thickness and induce ricochet. This principle, already used by the Soviet T-34, was adopted in the Panther and King Tiger. But even the King Tiger's thick, sloped frontal armor remained vulnerable to APDS at shorter ranges. The APDS was the crucial bridge technology that kept Allied tanks competitive without requiring a complete fleet redesign. It allowed the 17-pounder to remain deadly throughout the entire war. It wasn't just a technological achievement, it was a strategic masterstroke, a small, weird breakthrough developed in Canadian and British labs that unilaterally shifted the balance of military power. The modern battlefield. The APDS was more than a wartime innovation. It was the ancestor of every modern tank round used today. After the war, engineers refined the concept, developing the armor-piercing fin-stabilized discarding sabot APF-SDS. This round added stabilizing fins like a massive arrow, ensuring perfect accuracy over long distances. Today, the APF-SDS is standard ammunition for virtually every main battle tank in the world. The American M1 Abrams, the British Challenger, the German Leopard. The principle remains identical to the weird Canadian round from 1943. A hypervelocity, high-density core, now often depleted uranium, that defeats armor through kinetic energy density rather than mass. The German gunners who laughed at the unconventional projectile in 1943 were laughing at the future of anti-tank warfare. That initial weird design was the death knell for static, thick armor. It forced tank designers to prioritize sloped protection, lighter composite materials, active defense systems, mobility over mass. The APDS didn't win World War II single-handedly, but it won the tank war. It restored the confidence of Allied crews. It neutralized the terrifying dominance of the Tiger. It ensured the rapid Allied advance through Europe could continue without being fatally stalled by German heavy armor. It's a powerful testament to the decisive impact of applied science, proof that innovation, not just industrial muscle, determines victory. The engineers who developed the APDS fought the war not with rifles, but with physics, mathematics, and a simple revolutionary dart that changed warfare forever. Sometimes the most powerful weapon isn't the biggest or the loudest. Sometimes it's the one nobody takes seriously, until it's too late.